back. One of the most sought-after destinations in Canada by global travelers is Fogo Island Inn on the north shore of Newfoundland. The inn is a social enterprise designed from the start to revitalize its community. Zita Cobb is the founder of the Fogo Island Inn and CEO of Shorefast. Zita, thanks for being with us.
Amanda, thank you.
So Fogo, of course, is famous because it's amazing and it has become a success. But one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you was also to talk about what it represents and what the model is that could be used elsewhere in other communities. So what's the vision that made you, first of all, make it a social enterprise and what that means for the community?
Well, I think it means a lot because the inn itself has become an anchor for culture and for an economy that's built around care, craft, and culture. Of course, it's owned by the community through the structure that we have, which is through an organization called Shorefast, which is a registered charity focused on the well-being of the island. I think when we started, which was 18 years ago, we started with intent and investment to think about how do we hold on to our place? How do we build an economy that underpins it? How do we develop markets that are global markets? And how do we take our assets, which are many, and make them into products that can underpin our lives in this place?
When we think about perhaps exporting this very model, where else might it work? What are do you have examples in mind of communities or assets that you would say this is the right place where you could take a model like this and really exploit it?
I think, why do people travel? They travel for nature and culture. I mean, the culture part, we're nosy about each other. We're nosy about how other people live. And clearly, we have a surplus of nature and culture. And so we have communities that, I mean, we have great cities, let's not get me wrong, but we are 4,434 incorporated communities in our country. And maybe not all of them have a dream to, have tourism as an important part of their economy, but many do. And I don't think I've been in any province that I don't see assets that are adaptable with a small amount of investment. Well, sometimes it's a big amount of investment into products that can become tourism assets. And we should never forget that trade follows tourism. And at this moment, our tourism sector is only 2% of our GDP. It's still bigger than mining and forestry and agriculture and automotive, but the OECD countries, it's 4%. So I think we could set a target to get to 5%. And that would make a meaningful difference, not just to the GDP, but it would make a meaningful difference to the connective tissue of the country. Because really, since we built the railroad, what other connective tissue have we built?
Right.
And I think this is a way, now if you think about tourism investment, we have to do it in a way that the investment is development. And that means think about the sector. What does it mean to compete? What does it mean to build markets and be successful? And then the development part is about people and places. And how do we do that? And, you start with your assets. What do we love? What do we have? What do we miss? What can we do about it? And through that process, you're kind of strengthening culture, you're strengthening identity, you're strengthening attachment to place. There are three things we'd have to do. We have to take our assets, turn them into products that people can visit and enjoy. Yeah. We have to create access. And I think that's one of the weakest point of our Canadian economy right now, certainly our tourism economy, and not just that. We have very poor regional air access. So people have to be able to get to our country and move around in it. And then the third one, of course, is the world needs to know we're here and that there are places to come here besides the Fogo Island Inn. I mean, there are already places. We just need to make more.
We don't have a ton of time left, Zita, but on that access point, you really did manage to make some difference in Newfoundland, partly because of your connections and maybe because it's a smaller place. But could we create more of a network effect where the problems you solved there, we could do better with maybe it's a national agency that could look at every kind of tourist community and solve those issues?
The zone of opportunity for tourism, certainly, and for almost anything that involves investment and development, is the place where the circle that is government and the circle that is markets and the circle that is communities come together. That's the zone of opportunity, because we're not going to solve air access, by yelling at airlines. And we're not going to solve it any one of those pillars or any one of these circles can't solve it alone, but we can solve it together. That is the opportunity of Canada.
Zita, so good to have you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Zita Cobb is the founder of the Fogo Island Inn and the CEO of Shorefast. Economic uncertainty can be hard on hotels, but of course also creates opportunity for Canadian brands with distinctive offerings. Beth McMahon is President and CEO of the Hotel Association of Canada. Beth, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Amanda. Great to be here.
So, like every other sector at the moment, it feels a little bit like there's a reason for optimism, but also a lot of uncertainty. Overall, how are hotels in Canada faring? Are we fully recovered from the pandemic? And of course, now we're into a new uncertainty. But how does it feel out there?
It's feeling cautiously optimistic. I think we've seen a lot of growth, especially over the last year. And now, there's some mixed signals that are happening. I actually happen to be in Winnipeg currently at Rendezvous Canada, which is Canada's largest travel trade show. And so I've been on the floor hearing from international travel buyers of Canadian product and those sellers from across the country. And yeah, I think a lot of optimism for the summer months, but still, some cautionary notes about what, lies further ahead.
It feels like a moment, and maybe this is the kind of subject that would come up at a conference like that, where brand Canada should really be the thing we lean into, even more than usual. Is that a topic of conversation? Are folks in the industry really kind of thinking about how to get the message of what Canada is to the world right now?
100%. So Destination Canada, which is our crown corporation that has a mandate to promote kind of Canadian travel and tourism internationally, they are the centerpiece of this show. And they've just launched a brand new brand called Canada Naturally. It just launched today, so it's all over at least my social media feeds. But it is really, it's absolutely core to everything that kind of goes out in terms of media lines, marketing strategies.
Where are we seeing the different kind of categories doing? I mean, we know luxury held up unusually well through and post-pandemic. How are the different brand categories faring as you look down the road?
Yeah, you know what? It's mixed. I would say, obviously, in Canada right now, we're so appreciative for our domestic market. There is some softening over the last few months. I think just given the uncertainty, we saw some declines in some of our key international markets, even from the US. And so the nationalistic pride that we're seeing across the country, the Carney government has announced that there's going to be the Canada Strong Pass for the summer months. I am hearing, that all segments are doing well. In fact, I just met with somebody who's promoting Ontario parks, and they said they couldn't believe the international interest even in campsites. So across all the segments, there's good news. There's also, I would say, a hesitancy to invest longer term until there's more stability. So that's some of the things that we're talking about with our members. How do we incent greater investment into travel and tourism and into new hotels, because we know that it's needed?
Obviously, this is such a big, diverse country that there are some places for whom the tourism season is really in the winter. But for most of Canada, is the summertime the stretch when this is the bread and butter of attracting international travelers?
100%. This is absolutely peak time. A lot of the people that I've been talking to, said, come September, we'll let you know how things really are with those forward bookings. Part of the strategy, and so on Tuesday, which is really great here, there's something called the Inside Track, and they take us through each one of Canada's key, export markets, because travel tourism really is an export market for Canada. We are the second largest service export for the country, which is really impressive. And I think some people might not realize the value there. And so when we start to segment those markets, there are certain markets that absolutely want to come to Canada in the fall, like the Asian Pacific. They are really interested in, kind of the changing of the leaves. Australians are very interested in winter months, experiencing snow and skiing. And so there are some markets that we have, further opportunity to develop and bring into the country.
Beth, so good to have you for this. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, thanks, Amanda. Great to be here.
Beth McMahon, President and CEO of the Hotel Association of Canada. Coming up, food service is a huge part of Canada's economy and can be a massive draw for tourists. Stay with us.